The Melbourne Football Club. They have been one of the most talked about footy clubs in the last few years for all the wrong reasons. From drug bans to one of their leaders dropping a bombshell recently and wanting to leave the club, it has been like a reality TV show, except for the fact this ain't scripted. This club has got people in a headspin right now, and we as spectators don't know what's going to happen next. So guys, if you enjoy this video, make sure to like, subscribe, but let's take a look at what has happened to the Demons Football Club in the last 2 years. But before we get to the doom and gloom of the Melbourne Football Club in their last couple of years, we have to mention the drought-breaking premiership. Because for so many years, Melbourne were a laughingstock. From 2007 to 2016, they did not make the finals and claimed 2 wooden spoons along with 6 bottom 4 finishes. But the Demons turned their fortunes around, not only making finals in 2018, under the guidance of Simon Goodwin, but only 3 years later, they would break their 57-year premiership drought as they would claim victory against the Western Bulldogs in a history-making day for the club. The Demons were a force to be reckoned with, but after that drought-breaking day, it has been a steep decline for the Melbourne Footy Club. So the Demons had an amazing start to their premiership defence, starting the season with 10 straight wins. However, off the field, we saw our first incident, which would shake the Melbourne Footy Club. So on the 5th of June 2022, 2 teammates at the club in Stephen May and Jake Melksham got into a scuffle. Now it was reported that May sparked an argument, with him saying to Melksham that if you had played in the granny, we would have lost. It is claimed that Melksham then floored May with 1 punch in retaliation. Now I know that May is built like a brick shithouse, but bro, maybe say that to someone like Jaden Hunt, not someone who is trained in boxing like Melksham. But anyway, the Demons higher-ups quickly swept this under the rug and dismissed this as a one-off issue and that there was no widespread problems at the club. However, over the coming years, a pattern of poor culture would start to emerge at the Melbourne Footy Club. So now let's move to Joel Smith. So I'm sure most of you are aware of what has happened with his situation regarding Smith, but let's take a quick breakdown. So Smith tested positive for cocaine on the 20th of August in Melbourne's round 23 clash against Hawthorn. Now, strangely, the AFL was not notified of the adverse finding by Sports Integrity Australia until mid-October, after Smith was taking part in the Demons' failed finals series. But this, of course, was a massive story when it broke, and in the coming months, Joel Smith was provincially suspended as more investigations were conducted. And once the Sports Integrity Australia started digging, not only was Smith's career in jeopardy, but the Melbourne Footy Club were in damage control, trying to put out spot fires left, right and centre, and many Melbourne officials and key members of the club would defend its culture, saying that there was no drug culture at the club. But Sports Integrity Australia had asserted 3 anti-doping violations for trafficking or attempted trafficking of cocaine against him. So at this stage, Joel Smith's career as an AFL footballer is all but gone, but like I said, the Demons were adamant that this was an isolated incident. And look, if the controversies with the club stopped there, then maybe you could make an argument that they were just isolated. But as we know, this wasn't the end of the problems at the Melbourne Football Club. So to the 2023 season, the Demons campaign ended going out in straight sets in the final series, but Demons superstar in Clayton Oliver had a few injuries throughout the campaign, and with that brought the first controversy in Oliver's horrid 18-month period. So during his recovery from a 6-week stretch of setbacks, which included hamstring issues and a nasty infected blister, which actually put him in hospital, we saw Oliver going through a fitness test and was seen in an argument with the club's head of strength and conditioning in Selin Griffith. A fired-up Clayton Oliver was seen arguing with Griffith during Melbourne's Wednesday session at Casey Fields, where the midfielder was attempting to pass a fitness test. Now, there were 2 ways to look at this story, I believe. One was Clayton Oliver wanting to be back on the footy field and showing clear frustration that he was being informed that he would have to stay on the sidelines, but the other story was the entitlement of Oliver. The medical team at the club was trying to take a cautious approach with his injuries and trying to have the best intentions for the player. But instead of Oliver taking the advice of the professional, he would instead seemingly have a tantrum, throw the toys out of the cot, and wasn't happy with the outcome. Now I understand wanting to be out in the footy field, but if what's best for the team is for you to sit out for a few more games until you're fully fit, then that's what you should do. But Clayton didn't seem to have the club's values at front of mind. If it was just an isolated incident, then you could write it off. But as we list off the next few incidents, it shows a pattern. Now Oliver wouldn't return to the team until round 22 on the 12th of August versus Carlton, and was involved in the 2023 finals campaign for the D's, where of course they went out in straight sets, and then came the off-season of the Oliver saga. So in the off-season, it started with news that coming to light of Clayton's exit meeting. Now the full details are unknown, but the main point to come out of the meeting was Oliver was to clean up his act, or there was no longer a spot at the club. And this is where the infamous words were uttered to Clayton to shape up or ship off. And soon after that got out into the AFL media, the trade rumours started flying. Many clubs were circling to see if they could pry the star midfielder away from the Demons, which included the Crows and the Cats, amongst other clubs. However, after a lot of speculation, the Demons held on to Oliver, but that wasn't the end of the Oliver saga through the off-season. In fact, it was probably the lightest part of it. So moving 1 month into the future, Oliver was rushed to hospital, following a medical episode which saw him hit his head and then resulted in a seizure. Now, it was revealed later that Oliver's collapse took place at Smith's house and had been a result of a combination of prescription drugs, a lack of sleep, and stress from a big day at the gym. Now, Oliver did make a statement saying, "I take medication for my ADHD, so I've been talking to doctors about that for a while now." Now, Clayton Oliver also told Channel 7 he was sleeping in bed at Joel's and got up to get a drink, and next thing I knew, I was on the ground. Now, not as soon as people saw this, their immediate reaction was, "Oh, Clayton Oliver is overdosed on something that he probably shouldn't have been taking." But I'm not going to cast speculation with no evidence, but of course, this still isn't a great look for the club, who are trying to disperse accusations of having poor football culture. And because of the mounting allegations and pressure on the Melbourne Footy Club, Gary Pert and Simon Goodwin would front the public in a now infamous interview on SEN. Now, Simon Goodwin would staunchly defend allegations against the club's culture, but would also adamantly defend the allegations of Goodwin using illicit drugs, and Gary Pert, of course, would defend the club as well, but took one step further by stating that the culture at the Melbourne Football Club was the best he's seen in 40 years. Now, either he's got his head in the sand, or he's completely lying. You guys can discuss that in the comments. Either way, the club on the field had gone out in straight sets 2 years in a row, and off the field the Demons had been putting out spot fires left, right and centre. But with a new season ahead, maybe Melbourne could change the narrative. Now, the Demons did okay to start the season with 4 wins from 6 games, but towards the middle part of the season, the Demons found themselves outside the top 8. And then came the Petrarca injury. In round 13 versus Collingwood, in the traditional King's Birthday clash, we saw a sickening injury involving star demon and Christian Petrarca. Now, the incident occurred late in the first quarter of the game, where Petrarca was going for a mark when Collingwood captain and Darcy Moore would come from the side and put his knee into Petrarca's side. Now, this was a sickening blow for Petrarca, who would come off the field very gingerly. It was expected, at the very least, that he would be subbed out. However, that was not the case, and he would return to the field in the second term, but something was definitely not right. He looked like he could barely breathe, and eventually he was subbed out and would later be taken to hospital. But this wasn't a regular hospital visit for an AFL player. There were genuine fears of Petrarca losing his life. Now, luckily, he had the greatest of care and eventually would start to recover. But during his stay at the hospital, it was a very difficult time for him, as he was unable to see anyone other than his parents and fiancée in the first 10 days following the incident, and described the injury and hospital stay as the most traumatic thing he's experienced. Now, the aftermath of this injury had been terrible for everyone involved, and this started when whispers were going around that the Petrarca camp were not happy with the way the club treated Christian's injury. And this all came to a head about a month ago, where rumours started to circulate that Christian Petrarca wanted to leave the Melbourne Footy Club. This had to do with many factors, including not playing in front of big crowds, the standards at the club being at a low standard, along with the way the injury was dealt with, and other factors as well. So on the 26th of August, news came to light that Christian Petrarca had made it clear that he would like to play for another club next year. Now, most of the time when a player wants to leave a club, they usually get their wish. However, the problem on Petrarca's side was the fact that only a few years ago, he signed a mammoth deal to lock into the Demons until the end of the 2029 season, with the deal equating to $6 million at the time, which would have gone up in recent years. So with that much money on his head, plus the length of the deal, it would be very difficult to get a deal done. And another caveat to the trade was the brand Petrarca factor. And the thought process was to play for a big Victorian team, to be in front of a bigger audience and grow his brand and business opportunities. Now, as a lot of you would know, Petrarca has a pretty big following on social media, especially on TikTok with his cooking videos, which have amassed over 350,000 followers. But the brand Petrarca line left a bitter taste in the public eye, with many people calling Christian entitled and selfish. Now, I understand football is a short career and can end at any time, but at the end of the day, Petrarca is known as a footballer, not a TikToker, not an influencer, a footballer. And despite the issues he had with the club, the way he handled this situation did not give his brand any favours. And as soon as the Petrarca trade news came to light, it was clear very early on that there was going to be no way he would get out of the Melbourne Footy Club. So now he has gone back to the Demons with his tail between his legs to try and mend relationships and start to get this club back to where it was only a few years ago. But looking at these stories developed throughout the last few years, it is clear that the Melbourne Football Club are not in a good space right now. No matter how much you can deny and stick your heads in the sand, the fact of the matter is this club has faced a lot of issues, pressure and criticism over this period, and the club has not dealt with it well at all. But there seems to be some good signs ahead for the Melbourne Footy Club going forward. As first of all, they have an external review in this off-season to point out the faults of the club and a way to move forward. And in terms of on the field, the Demons have some very exciting prospects with the likes of Windsor, Van Rooyen, McVie, Thulstrup and many more. So if the Demons can mend some relationships, get their players fit and ready to go, I can definitely see a quick rise at the very least. But this off-season is one of the most important times in the Melbourne Football Club's history. Hey guys, thanks for watching this video. I really do appreciate it. And if you enjoy these type of video essays that I have been putting out, make sure to go check out the playlist on the channel. We have all of them just there for you guys to binge if you want to. Comment down below your thoughts on the Melbourne Demons at the moment and what they need to do next. Make sure to like this video if you did enjoy it, guys. Subscribe to the channel, of course. If you have a mate who loves footy just as much as you, then make sure to share it to them. And if you want to show a little bit of extra support, we do have channel membership enabled on the channel. So if you want all kinds of exclusive perks, early access to videos and the podcast, then click the link down below, mark channel membership. But thank you again for listening, guys. Thank you for watching, and we'll catch you all on the next one.